going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. A little bit ago I showed you guys a little bit of a behind the scenes look into my YouTube studio setup, how I've built everything, the equipment that I'm using in here, pretty much how I've set it up from the ground up to create the look that we have going on right now. And in that video you guys might have seen that I got a new light, and that's actually the light I'm using to light the scene right now. It's pretty much the only light aside from one other guy over here, which is illuminating the background, giving that nice, cool blue look. So the light we're using is the Falcon Eyes RX24 TDX, kind of a long name, but basically it's a giant 24-inch flexible LED panel, or mat, whatever you want to call it. But this is an incredible light, and I've been using it now for about a month or so for pretty much every project. I have been finding myself, I have a variety of LED panels and a lot of different options, but this has by far been the most versatile light I've ever used. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the specs of this light. Now, you guys did hear me correctly in the beginning. This is a 24-inch flexible LED panel, which is pretty massive for flexible LED technology. Flexible LEDs are obviously going to have a number of benefits, being one, they're flexible, so you can put them in a variety of places that traditional video lights probably couldn't be mounted. The other nice thing is they're really thin and light, being flexible. I mean, they're literally a mat that you can roll up into a tube, which is pretty badass on its own. So the overall weight and footprint of this light when it's packed down and condensed is really small. So the other nice thing about it being 24 inches is it's obviously a fairly large light source to begin with. Large light sources are naturally going to produce a little bit softer light, cause less shadows on objects opposed to something like a Fresnel, which is coming from a very tiny source. So even in a scenario without diffusion, you would still probably be able to get away with using it as a key light for a subject. Now, speaking of diffusion, the setup that I'm rocking right now is the softbox attachment with the honeycomb grid, and that's what I'm using to light this scene right now. I'm using that grid to keep the light nice and sort of directional falling on me. If I didn't have that grid on there, we'd have a lot more spill side to side. We'd be lighting up a lot more of this wall and probably over here, just creating a little bit too flat of a look. So that's what that grid is going to do. It's sort of going to shape and control the overall spill of the light, sort of keeping it a little bit more directional. This guy has a 150 watt output, which if you're not familiar with LED technology and sort of wattages, that's a lot of light. It's also bicolor adjustable, so we can go from 3000 Kelvin all the way up to daylight, 5600 Kelvin. We can get that really nice warm look. If we're using other, for example, tungsten lights, or if we're balancing it against daylight, we can go up to 5600 Kelvin and match it perfectly. There's been multiple times that I've used it here in the studio while it's daylight out and this window has a ton of natural light coming in. It looks really bad if I don't fill in the negative sort of light in here. I've used this light to compensate for that. In fact, I'll show some clips of when I've done that, and it's able to crank out enough output to balance against a huge, massive daylight window. And the color seems to match pretty damn well. This light is sporting a CRI of 98, which means color reproduction is going to be pretty damn accurate. So we shouldn't have any issues with like a green or magenta cast that LEDs are kind of notorious for having. So of course, it's great to hear all the specs about a light, but how does it actually work for me in practice? Well, I can tell you this is absolutely, as I said in the beginning, probably my most favorite light I've ever used. It's by far the most versatile, mainly for the fact of it being this just ultra thin flexible LED panel. That is again one of the advantages of those flexible LED mats, is they can be put into positions and just sort of mounted in areas where other more traditional just big lights can't really be mounted. So I have a scenario right now where I don't really have a lot of space in here to set up lights. This office may look big, but in reality, it's no more than maybe a 12 by 12 or so square. So I don't really have a ton of room to set up like a giant softbox. I mean, something like the Aperture 120D, which is a phenomenal, very well-renowned light, that's a big light. And the light dome itself, the modifier that most people are using with that light, is huge, and I don't really know if I would have room to shoot with that in here. But this flexible LED, which is not really much deeper than about give or take 6 inches, I have it backed all the way up against my closet right here, and it just sits, and I have the softbox and the grid on, and takes up almost no space, and we're getting this beautiful, nice big light source, soft light, the exact look that I'm going for. The output of this light is another huge pro. I mean, I cannot tell you how nice it is to be able to, in broad daylight, crank this window open so I get the nice, soft, natural light, and then turn this guy on, turn it to 5600 Kelvin so it matches the color temperature of the outside daylight. And then I can use that to just fill and even out this room to create just this very, very nice sort of bright, even clinical looking light. It's really nice. You guys saw it in the video again, which was like unboxing all my camera gear and stuff like that. Doing something like that definitely takes a pretty powerful light, and 150 watts is more than enough to do that. So that's definitely a really big pro of this light. The controller for the light is pretty nice. It's very, very well built. It has a nice screen on it that tells you the color temperature of the light as well as the output. It has some touch buttons on there, which are kind of finicky. I personally prefer the actual physical dials. The other great thing is that we have the option for AC power as well as V-mount batteries, which is kind of something you're gonna see on more professional lights. A lot of cheaper Amazon lights and stuff like that are generally gonna take like the Sony NP-F type batteries, which are really, really common. You can get them really cheap. But a larger light like this that's going to require more power, something like V-mount batteries or gold mount batteries are going to be much more common. The one thing that I'm not really a fan of is how bulky the controller is. I wish it maybe was just a little bit smaller. I mean, it is basically a nice big solid block of aluminum. It's about that big, especially when the AC adapter is attached on the back of it. It's pretty clunky. I think that they maybe could have shrunk that down just a little bit, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. They do include a little strap on it, which you can actually like hook onto the a knob of a light stand or something like that, and it kind of acts as a sandbag, and that's actually what I'm doing right down here right now, so I don't actually have to sandbag the light. So that's a nice feature. But yeah, the controller could be just a little bit smaller. Now the light does have an option for a remote. There's a little antenna that screws onto the controller, and then you can pick up a remote. I think it's $50 or $60 sold separately. I unfortunately don't have that here to show you guys, but just know that there is that option. Okay, so now let's talk about the thing that you guys are all probably wondering: how much does this light cost? I mean, for those of you who maybe clicked the link down in the description before even getting into this video, yes, this light, along with the softbox, is about $549. It's a relatively pricey light, but here's the deal. This kind of a light is by no means really what I would call like a hobbyist grade LED panel. This is absolutely a professional piece of lighting equipment. Flexible LED technology has been around for a little while, and from a major manufacturer, I think the first company to do it, the whole flexible LED stuff, was Westcott. Their 1x1 panel, literally 12 inch by 12 inch, was I think, I want to say $700 or $800, and their larger sizes just continued to go up in price from there. So the fact that we're rocking a 24-inch panel right now for $550, very, very affordable when it comes to the whole flexible LED game. Now, sure, there's definitely lights that you could find for cheaper that would give you maybe similar amounts of output or light quality. But the thing is flexible LED panels are insanely versatile. Everything that I've described to you guys so far about how it's super, super small to transport, extremely lightweight, battery powered, supposedly it's waterproof, not really sure, I want to test that. This light would be perfect for the run and gun filmmaker, somebody who's needing something that is insanely versatile, that can be in a lot of different environments, including things that are like space limited. I mean, again, like I'm saying, we're not in a very big space here, and traditionally to get something, this large of a light source, we need a much larger softbox. It would be a bulky setup, but this is very, very tiny, very flush, so I can squish it all the way up against this wall and still get that nice large light source look that's illuminating me single light right now. It's kind of a nice look. I mean, you get what I'm saying here? Everything about this light is extremely well built, very professional grade. Again, in the field, when you're a full-time filmmaker, if you're doing something like this full-time freelance, you need gear that is reliable. You need gear that you can count on. Stuff like the cheaper sort of Chinese made LED panels, stuff like that, it's generally pretty plasticky. I mean, a lot of times the light quality of those isn't super great. It's just you can't really worry about things like that. Like, you need to know that your light, your microphones, your monitors and stuff like that, all the little accessories that are sort of crucial, you need to be able to count on those. So if you're somebody who needs a truly professional lighting solution, you need something that's crazy versatile, super lightweight, very compact to transport, then this might be a fantastic option for you. If you're somebody like a YouTube filmmaker who, you know, maybe not raking in the dollars just yet, you know, this would still be a good light. Lighting is a good thing to invest in, but they also make smaller versions that are a little bit more affordable. I mean, this is a very, very big light, ton of output. You probably don't need this. In fact, this is pretty overkill for me, but I mean, hey, I got the light for the review. So all in all, I think I'm gonna have to leave it at that. This is my most favorite light I've used so far, and I'm probably gonna be using it for a long time for a lot of different things. If you guys are interested, you can certainly check it out in the link down below in the description. It's a great light, and it's definitely worth the money if you're considering it. So with that being said, I'm gonna wrap up the video here. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. If you guys enjoyed this one, be sure to slap it a thumbs up. If you guys wanna see more lighting videos in the future, leave me a comment down below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video.